Daniel Carter felt a rush of adrenaline as he wheeled his luggage through the grand entrance of the Royal Palm Resort, joining the throngs of guests bustling to check in. The morning sun cast golden streaks across the marble floor, illuminating the intricate designs that he had personally chosen years ago. However, today was different. He wasn't here as the owner but as James Mitchell, a typical businessman from Seattle. "Welcome to the Royal Palm Resort, sir," a young concierge greeted him with a practiced smile. Daniel recognized her as Sarah Chin, a recent hire who had been working there for only 3 months. She didn't have a clue that the man standing before her was the owner of the very hotel she was serving. He adjusted the fake glasses he had donned and ran a hand through his newly trimmed hair, reminding himself to stay in character. As Sarah typed on the computer, Daniel took a moment to observe the lobby through fresh eyes. He noticed a family struggling to calm their toddler, who was having a full-blown tantrum near the elevators. In another corner, a couple was quietly arguing by the coffee shop, their hushed voices thick with frustration over room preferences. Moments like these were the essence of a resort experience, real and raw, moments he had long missed while attending board meetings and overseeing expansion projects. "Here you go, Mr. Mitchell. You're in Suite 1217, one of our premium ocean view rooms," Sarah said cheerfully, handing him a key card. "Thomas will help with your luggage. Would you like a tour of our facilities?" For a brief moment, Daniel considered declining. After all, he was intimately familiar with every inch of the Royal Palm Resort. But he caught himself. If he was going to stay in character as James Mitchell, why not witness the resort from a guest's perspective? "Yes, that would be helpful," he replied, suppressing the urge to smile as the girl looked slightly taken aback at his willingness. Thomas, a tall bellhop with an easy smile, led him through the resort. As they walked, Daniel noticed several aspects he had overlooked in quarterly financial reports. Peeling paint near the indoor pool, tired-looking tropical plants in the atrium, and a service door that squeaked loudly when a maid pushed her cart through it all caught his attention. Thomas was explaining the ongoing renovations in the spa when Daniel realized he had approved those changes without visiting the site. "Between you and me, sir," Thomas said, leaning in slightly, "the old steam room was better. This new one takes forever to heat up properly." A frown crossed Daniel's face. His thoughts were racing. How many other decisions had he made from behind a desk? He felt a wave of regret wash over him, thoughts of how far he had drifted distanced from the soul of the resort. "It's beautiful," Daniel said quietly, eyeing the wellness center as they passed but feeling the doubt creeping in. After tipping Thomas generously, he made his way to the balcony of Suite 1217. The view of the Pacific Ocean was breathtaking, a sea of vibrant blues and foamy waves crashing against the private beach below, where guests lounged under branded umbrellas. He had built this paradise from the ground up, transforming a rundown motel into a 5-star resort. Back then he knew every employee's name, personally greeted guests, and could spot maintenance issues from a mile away. His phone buzzed with an email notification, another reminder from his executive team about an upcoming board meeting. Daniel dismissed it without a second thought. For the next week, James Mitchell wouldn't care about board meetings or profit margins. He was determined to reconnect with what made this resort special. Deciding to dine at the resort's casual lounge rather than the formal restaurant, he strolled through the open space adorned with rustic wood panels and comfortable leather chairs. A jazz trio played softly in the corner, and the bartender was skillfully mixing cocktails, entertaining the guests as laughter floated through the room. "First time at Royal Palm?" a woman next to him at the bar inquired. She wore an elegant black dress that suggested wealth without being ostentatious. "Yes," Daniel replied, trying to sound casual while sipping his whiskey. "I've heard good things." "Oh, it used to be the best," she said, stirring her martini thoughtfully. "Still nice, but something's changed in the last few years. It feels more like a corporation than a resort." Daniel's chest tightened at her words. He wanted to defend the resort, to explain the challenges of managing a growing hospitality empire, but James Mitchell wouldn't know any of that. "What changed?" he asked instead, genuinely curious. "It's hard to put my finger on it. The old owner, Carter, I think that was his name? He used to be around all the time, chatting with guests, hosting special events. Now it's all managed by some company. You can tell the staff tries their best, but..." She shrugged, leaving the sentence unfinished. Feeling stung by the criticism, Daniel excused himself and walked to the restroom, seeking a moment of solitude. As he looked at his reflection in the mirror, he barely recognized the man staring back at him. When had he last hosted a guest event? When had he stopped being the caring owner of the resort and become just another corporate figure? Leaving the restroom, Daniel stopped cold, his heart racing when he overheard a conversation from a nearby private booth. Two men were speaking in hushed tones, yet their words pierced through the air with alarming clarity. "The paperwork is almost ready. The board will vote him out. He won't see it coming. He's never here anyway." Daniel froze, disbelief flooding his system. They couldn't be talking about him. Mustering the strength to walk casually past the booth, he caught a glimpse of the speakers. Familiar faces from previous investor meetings sent a chill down his spine. Someone was plotting to take his resort away from him, and they were right about one thing. He had no idea it was coming. Back in his suite, Daniel paced the room, his mind racing. He had come to reconnect with his resort but instead stumbled into a plot that threatened to upend everything he had built. The bitter irony was not lost on him. He had become someone else to finally see the truth about his own business. Tomorrow he would dig for information and get to the bottom of this betrayal. But for now he stood on the balcony, watching the lights of the resort twinkle against the backdrop of a darkening sky. It was his refuge, but it was also a battlefield for secrets long hidden, questions that needed answers and challenges waiting to unfold. As the waves crashed below, Daniel felt the weight of urgency settle into his chest. He had 1 week to save his resort, but first he had to figure out who he could trust, and how deeply the roots of betrayal had grown within his own legacy. In the distance, clouds rolled in, cloaking the horizon, mirroring the uncertainty clouding his mind. This was only the beginning of a fight he was not prepared for, but Daniel Carter would fight for his resort, his home, with everything he had. As Daniel Carter stood on the balcony of Suite 1217, he could feel the weight of uncertainty pressing down on him. The twinkling lights of the Royal Palm Resort cast a warm glow against the encroaching darkness, but inside he felt cold dread pooling in the pit of his stomach. He had 1 week to unravel a conspiracy that threatened not just his business but the livelihoods of everyone who worked there. Tomorrow he needed to gather information and begin to parse the tangled web woven by those who had chosen profit over loyalty. His heart raced with questions. Who could he trust? What was the full extent of the betrayal? Daniel realized that he had to act quickly. He couldn't wait for the board meeting on Thursday when the conspirators would make their move. After pacing restlessly, he decided to return to the lobby in a determined search for answers. Perhaps there, mingling among the guests or behind the scenes, he would encounter someone who could illuminate the shadows cast by the dark plot that loomed over the resort. He stepped back into his suit, slipping on the false guise of James Mitchell, and made his way downstairs. The lobby was alive with activity. Guests were checking in and out, families laughing as children ran in circles around them, and staff moving seamlessly between interactions. Daniel watched, noting how each employee contributed to the atmosphere that had made the Royal Palm a cherished destination. The warmth of human connection was palpable, and yet, he sensed the strain beneath the surface. "Mr. Mitchell." A voice pulled him from his thoughts. It was Sarah, the young concierge, her expression bright but slightly anxious as she approached. "I hope you're enjoying your stay. If you need anything or have any special requests, just let me know." For a fleeting moment, the sincerity of her enthusiasm brought a brief smile to his face. "Thank you, Sarah. Everything's wonderful so far. But tell me, how are things running here? I've noticed some signs of strain among the staff." Her brow furrowed slightly, a flicker of concern appearing in her eyes. "It's just, well, the hotel has been changing. Some of the amenities are in need of repair, and rumors about management decisions have created tension among the team. But everyone's doing their best to keep spirits high." Daniel's gut tightened. The tension she spoke of was likely exacerbated by the plot being woven around them, but he knew he needed to understand the root of the issue. "Is there anyone who's been particularly concerned? Anyone who seems especially affected by these changes?" Sarah hesitated, glancing around as if to ensure no one was eavesdropping. "Honestly, I think the head of housekeeping, Maria, has been feeling it the most. The team has been under pressure with cutbacks, but Maria is a dedicated leader. She handles complaints and issues that come up, but I can tell she's overwhelmed." "Thank you, Sarah." Daniel felt a spark of determination igniting within him. He was going to find Maria and get a clearer picture of what was happening. He excused himself and headed to the housekeeping area, a place he rarely visited. The hallways were filled with the sounds of carts being wheeled and the cheerful banter of staff as they collaborated. When he found Maria, she was in the midst of organizing her team for the shift that lay ahead. "Maria?" Daniel approached her with the demeanor of a concerned guest. "I'm James Mitchell and I wanted to introduce myself. I've heard wonderful things about you and your team." Her expression shifted from surprise to warmth as she nodded. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Mitchell. We work hard to keep up the standards of the resort. I can see that, he replied, his voice sincere. But I also hear there are challenges you're facing. May I ask what's really going on here? Maria glanced around before leaning in closer, a shadow crossing her face. It's the budget cuts, Mr. Mitchell. We're expected to do more with less and maintenance issues are piling up. I'm doing my best to coordinate repairs, but we're short-staffed and management doesn't seem to understand how much we rely on each other to keep things running smoothly. Daniel nodded, feeling anger and frustration bubble inside him. And how does that affect your team morale? Many of us feel underappreciated and overworked. There's a sense that the heart of the Royal Palm is being pushed aside for profit margins. I worry about my staff, they're like family to me. A moment of silence passed between them, and Daniel knew he could trust Maria. Listen, we need to make some changes and fast. Can you gather your team tonight for a brief meeting? I want to hear their concerns directly. Her eyes widened in surprise. You want to meet with them? But, trust me, he interjected, his voice firm but calm. It's important that I understand the full scope of the issue so that I can support you all. Please, let's take this opportunity before the board meeting. After a brief moment, nodding in agreement, Maria agreed. I'll gather them for 8 p.m. in the staff lounge. Thank you for listening, Mr. Mitchell. As Daniel left the housekeeping area, he felt more determined than ever. It was becoming clear to him that the challenges the resort faced were not just financial, they were human struggles demanding attention and care. Each moment of genuine kindness mattered, and he needed to remind everyone of that. His heart heavier yet somehow lighter, he wandered back to the main lobby where the dazzling chandelier hung above, a permanent fixture that had once signified luxury and elegance but now felt like a symbol of something precarious. Each crystal emanated a reflection of the truth he was beginning to uncover, all the moments, all the people, and all the choices that compounded to form the current reality. Returning to his suite, Daniel grabbed his laptop and began reviewing financial reports, preparing for his night meeting with Maria and her team. They were critical to the resort's success, and he needed their insight now more than ever. A sense of urgency coursed through him as he combed through reports that highlighted declining profit margins and mounting expenses. He discovered irregularities that confirmed the rumors of budget cuts. Maintenance costs had soared while employee satisfaction had plummeted. Each page turned showed the mark of decisions made without taking the human element into account, much like he had done himself. Daniel realized he had to confront these issues head-on, not just to save the resort but to rebuild trust among his team. As he looked at the numbers, a thought struck him like lightning. What if he reached out to Michael? They needed a plan, and even with the betrayal hanging over him, Michael was still his best friend. They had weathered every storm together, and perhaps this one would be no different. With newfound resolve, Daniel quickly drafted a text to Michael. Can we meet? I need to talk about a serious issue before the board meeting. Something is brewing that affects all of us. Daniel tucked his phone away, a sense of restlessness swirling within him. He returned to his notes, reviewing Maria's concerns while trying to devise ways to invigorate the staff's spirit. He needed to muster a rabble-rousing charge that would bring them all together, reminding everyone that they were part of something special. They weren't just employees, they were family. As night crept upon him, darkness settled like a shroud across the resort, the sound of the ocean waves blending with the whispers of the night. Daniel knew the storm was brewing, both from the conspirators who sought to bring him down and the undercurrents of discontent within the resort. But he was no longer just a passive observer. He would take the reins of action. He would fight to protect the Royal Palm Resort, pull it back from the brink, and ensure it remained a sanctuary, an oasis where not only guests but the staff felt valued, respected, and celebrated. Tomorrow would not just be another day, it would be the beginning of reclaiming the identity of the Royal Palm Resort, one that thrived on personal connections, warmth, and community. Daniel fell asleep filled with purpose, dreaming of a plan that could transform the fate of his resort and strengthen the bonds of the family they had all built together. The sun broke over the horizon the next morning, casting a dusky pink hue across the ocean. Daniel awoke with a renewed sense of purpose. Today was going to be pivotal. His meeting with Maria and staff was just hours away, and he needed to craft a message that would inspire them to rise against the tide of uncertainty and doubt. After a quick shower and breakfast at the resort's cafe, Daniel paced the lobby, absorbing the atmosphere around him. He spotted a few of the familiar faces of the staff as they busily moved about, attending to guests, moving carts, and exchanging friendly banter. He noted Maria, her brow furrowed as she spoke with two of her employees, clearly trying to encourage them despite the burdens weighing heavily on her shoulders. Daniel's mind fell back to his conversation with Sarah the day before. The pulse of the resort was on the line, and if he couldn't secure the confidence of his employees, the very foundation he had built might crumble. He discreetly made his way to the staff lounge, where he planned to prepare for that evening's meeting. When he arrived, he was surprised to see Sarah already inside, facilitating a personal encounter with another employee. "Oh, Mr. Mitchell, you're here early," she greeted him, her bright smile evident even underneath the weight of the day. "Just wanted to make sure I was prepared," he replied, pulling his own chair into the circle of low tables crowded with staff. "You seem to have a good rapport with the team." Sarah nodded modestly. "I try to listen when they want to talk, especially when things get rough. It helps. A little bit of kindness can go a long way." "Indeed," he mused, recalling their previous conversation. "Does anyone else seem particularly flustered today?" Before Sarah could respond, the lounge door swung open and several staff members trickled in. Daniel smiled at them, encouraging them to take a seat. He noticed Maria among them, her stance rigid as she scanned the room for familiar faces. Slowly, the staff settled around the tables, filling the room with a ripple of chatter, but Daniel sensed trepidation lingered just beneath the surface. "Hey everyone," he began, forcing confidence into his voice. "I know you all have a busy day ahead, but I wanted to take a moment to check in. My name is James Mitchell, as you know, but I want you to think of me as part of the family here at the Royal Palm." He could feel the weight of their collective gaze upon him, eyebrows slightly raised in curiosity or perhaps skepticism. The room quieted down, the murmurs fading into silence. He took a breath and pressed on. "I understand that these past months have been tough. There have been countless changes affecting morale, budget cuts, and the pressures of work. I want to hear your thoughts, your concerns, and more importantly, I want to understand how we can make this place feel like home again." Some exchanged glances, but Maria soon raised her hand, her voice steady yet tempered with vulnerability. "We just want to feel valued, Mr. Mitchell. Many of us are working harder than ever but facing a lot of stress. We feel like we're not being heard." Daniel felt a pang in his heart. "You're heard. I promise I am here to listen. Your contributions have built this resort into what it is today, and I want to ensure that we continue growing together. If you're willing to share, let's talk." The room buzzed with a mix of tentative enthusiasm and skepticism as employees began voicing their frustrations, sharing stories of exhaustion, and pouring out their hearts as they spoke about their hopes for the future of the resort. Each voice contributed to the larger tapestry of their collective experience, forging connection where gaps had widened. "We missed the community events," a bartender chimed in. "The holiday parties we used to host made us feel like a family. Now it feels like we're all working in our own silos." Another voice chimed in, and the guests noticed too. "We used to have smaller, intimate gatherings. Now it's focused on filling rooms for profits, not on creating meaningful experiences." Daniel felt urgency swell within him as the voices grew more passionate, emotions spilling forth with candor. He realized these employees weren't just sharing grievances, they were giving him insight into a broken culture that needed mending. "I hear all of you," he asserted, his resolve becoming stronger. "We will rethink our approach to guest experiences, and I will work on bringing back those community events. I want morale to improve, and that includes you having the resources you need." But as the discussion continued, Daniel's heart began to race when he heard whispers of more troubling revelations. "And if things don't improve, some say the higher-ups plan to sell the resort," a maintenance worker noted, his voice dropping as though he were afraid to say it out loud. "What?" Daniel asked, the words catching in his throat. "What do you mean?" "They say management has been making arrangements behind the scenes to offload this place for a profit. People are worried about their jobs. It's causing a lot of stress." Daniel's stomach dropped. The specter of losing the Royal Palm was becoming more tangible with each passing moment. If they sold the resort, it would obliterate everything they had built together. "Who have you heard this from?" he pressed, scanning the room for answers. Silence descended as employees traded anxious glances. "It's just whispers, but it's circulating among many of us," Maria admitted, a frown etched across her brow. "Nobody seems to know the truth." Seizing the moment, Daniel made a decision that resonated within him. "I want to dispel these rumors. If you have doubts, I want you to bring them directly to me, and I will do everything in my power to keep you informed. You deserve transparency," he continued, "and together we can prove that this resort is worth saving. If we work as a team to restore that sense of community and dedication, we'll have a fighting chance. There's strength in unity, and I truly believe that." As questions morphed into brainstorming sessions, the staff began to envision a brighter future. Ideas flowed freely, reviving team-building activities, hosting open mic nights for employees, and bringing guests into the fold of the resort's unique culture. Amid the fervor of their ideas, the door creaked open, and Sarah leaned in with a look of surprise on her face. "Sorry to interrupt, but..." Her expression changed as she noticed the animated discussions taking place. "What's happening in here? It sounds like a rally." Daniel chuckled slightly, taking it as a compliment. "You could say we're looking to spark a movement. Join us, Sarah." Within minutes, the room was alight with hope and inspiration. Laughter replaced tension and resolutions blossomed, kicking off an exciting revival of the family spirit they had all missed. Yet, through the energy, a sense of urgency remained. Concrete decisions needed to be made, and the clock ticked loudly toward the imminent board meeting. As the gathering wound down, Daniel felt a wave of gratefulness wash over him. This was just the beginning. He hadn't solved their problems overnight, but he had rekindled the flame of camaraderie among the staff, giving them the courage to face the trials ahead together. Exiting the lounge, he couldn't shake the feeling that the stakes were higher than he had initially thought. The whispers of betrayal, coupled with the storm brewing in the corporate landscape, meant he wouldn't be able to tackle this challenge alone. As the day progressed, he began formulating a new strategy. By the time evening approached, he needed to meet with Michael and devise a bold plan that could change the course of what lay ahead. With clear objectives guiding him, Daniel felt a fire igniting in his chest. He would stand against the waves of crisis threatening to swallow the Royal Palm. With community blooming in the heart of the resort, and together with the uniqueness that each employee brought, they would navigate this storm, guided by the light of their shared vision. Tonight, in the company of reliable friends and newfound allies, Daniel was determined to turn the whispers of danger into a rallying cry for resilience. And with that thought, he steered himself into action, ready to face whatever awaited him. Nightfall descended over the Royal Palm Resort, casting an air of anticipation throughout the dimly lit hallways. The scent of salt from the nearby ocean mingled with the rich aroma of dinner being served in the hotel restaurant. Daniel stood in front of a large full-length mirror in his suite, adjusting his collar as a sense of urgency coursed through him. Tonight was not just any meeting, it was a convergence of allies, a gathering of minds dedicated to protecting the heart of the resort. Daniel's plan to confront the board and the potential threat of selling the property depended on this meeting. He pulled out his phone and texted Michael one last time. "Meet me in the staff lounge at 8 p.m. There's something crucial we need to discuss before the board meeting ****. By 8 o'clock, Maria, Sarah, and a handful of dedicated staff had gathered in the lounge, their expressions a mixture of hope and trepidation. Daniel paced before them as he awaited Michael's arrival. The air hummed with energy, and for the first time the camaraderie felt tangible, a shared understanding that they were all part of something bigger. When Michael finally entered, Daniel felt a wave of relief wash over him. His old friend was a familiar sight, yet there was a different air around him tonight, one of unyielding support. "What's up? Heard there was a bit of a buzz going on. Everyone seems enthusiastic," Michael asked, an eyebrow raised with curiosity. "Enthusiastic is an understatement," Daniel grinned, inviting them all to take seats. "We're on the brink of something transformative." He shared with Michael the discussions he'd had with Maria and her staff, their grievances, their hopes for the resort. Daniel leaned in, his gaze steady. "I believe we have the foundation for a grassroots movement within the resort. If we come together with actionable ideas, we can present a strong case to the board that emphasizes the importance of employee morale and community engagement." As he spoke, Daniel could see interest igniting in everyone's eyes. Maria nodded in agreement. "We want to bring back those community events, starting with an employee showcase. Employees can share their talents and creativity with both guests and staff." "That's a fantastic idea," Michael chimed in, his enthusiasm rising. "A way to boost morale while enhancing guest experiences. It can serve as a reminder of the vibrancy we all contribute to the resort." The room filled with energy as they brainstormed further. They decided to create a proposal that emphasized the importance of teamwork and a commitment to restoring the heart of the staff culture. They discussed hosting an open house-style event for guests, inviting them to participate in activities that highlighted the talents of the staff, from culinary showcases to art displays created by the team. As they fleshed out the proposal, they kept returning to the whisper of a potential sale. "We can't let them sell this place out from under us," Sarah reminded everyone. "We have to present them with a united front and compelling reasons to keep investing in us instead." There was a consensus in the room, a commitment that something had to change and fast. Daniel felt a thrill course through him as he noted the determination shining in their eyes. This was more than a business decision. It was a matter of preserving a community that had flourished over the years. Later that evening, after an invigorating session of ideas and laughter, they solidified their presentation. As the clock ticked toward midnight, they decided to call it a night. It was time for rest before the critical meeting with the board the next morning. As Daniel headed back to his suite, he felt a sense of hope that drove away the heaviness he had felt for so long. For the first time, the realization that they could shape the outcome sank into his bones. The next day would define the future of the Royal Palm Resort and everyone who called it home. The following morning, the atmosphere in the boardroom was more electrifying than ever. Daniel stood at the front, flanked by Michael, Maria, and Sarah, their united presence radiating support. The board members took their seats, an air of skepticism mixed with curiosity lurking as they prepared for the presentation. Daniel began with data that highlighted declining employee morale and creativity, statistics that showcased how a disengaged workforce affected customer satisfaction and overall profitability. He offered candid insights from the ground level, informed by discussions with staff gathered the night before. "Today I stand before you not just as a manager but as an advocate for our team," he declared, his voice steady with conviction. "I have listened to their fears and their hopes, and I believe the only way forward is to reinvest in our people and our community." The board members exchanged glances, intrigued yet guarded. Daniel pressed on, sharing the proposal they had crafted. A revival of community events within the resort, starting with an employee showcase that would highlight the strengths and talents of those who worked there. Michael stepped up, presenting the financial projections that supported their plan. "If we enhance employee satisfaction, we can expect to see not only a return in guest experiences but also increased loyalty and referrals," he explained, his confidence radiating through the room. As they continued, Maria and Sarah presented their own testimonials and visions for the future. The theme was clear: they weren't just employees, they were partners in the journey of the Royal Palm. They concluded with a powerful rallying cry: "Let's work together to protect the heart of our resort and all its people for a brighter future." A heavy silence followed, and Daniel's heart pounded as the board members deliberated, their expressions inscrutable. Then the chairperson leaned forward, breaking the silence. "While change doesn't come easy, I must say your passion has given us much to consider. We appreciate the dedication you all have shown. We will schedule a follow-up to assess these plans further." While they hadn't secured a definitive answer, there was a spark of something significant, a glimmer of hope that the tide was turning. Daniel exhaled slowly, the weight of uncertainty feeling a little lighter. Over the next few weeks, the community events began to blossom, engaging guests and staff alike. The employee showcase became an annual tradition, establishing a renewed sense of belonging within the team while captivating guests with the resort's vibrant culture. Word of the Royal Palm's transformation spread throughout the industry, catching the eye of potential partners who aligned more closely with Daniel's vision. Rather than selling the resort, the board recognized the value in maintaining its identity and nurturing the talent within. As months passed, the Royal Palm Resort became a symbol of resilience and unity, a place where every person felt valued and important. The whispers of danger faded into echoes of inspiration, and what had once threatened to tear them apart became the catalyst for rebuilding a stronger foundation. Daniel walked through the lobby one evening, watching families laughing and staff sharing stories, their spirits reignited. The heart of the Royal Palm had not just survived, it had flourished. He spotted Maria and Sarah sharing a light-hearted moment near the check-in desk. "Do you remember how far we've come?" Maria asked, her smile infectious. "Absolutely," Sarah replied, grinning back as she adjusted a display promoting their next community event. "We proved that when we stand together we can weather any storm." Daniel joined them, a sense of pride swelling within him. "Indeed we did. And I can't wait to see where this journey takes us next." As they stood together, united as a family, Daniel knew this was just the beginning. The Royal Palm Resort was no longer just a destination, it was a heartbeat, a flourishing testament to resilience, creativity, and the remarkable power of community. And in that moment, as the golden sun dipped below the horizon, painting the resort in hues of amber, Daniel understood that the future was not just built on profits, but on the unwavering spirit of the people who called the Royal Palm home, thriving for years to come.